There are so many places we could start when considering feminist approaches to international relations and geopolitics. I'm going to start with Carmen Miranda, the lady in the Tutti-Frutti Hat.
I wonder why does everybody look at me and then begin to talk about the Christmas tree. I hope that means that everyone is glad to see the lady in the Tutti-Frutti Hat.
Why Carmen Miranda? How can the lady in the Tutti-Frutti Hat explain feminist approaches to international relations and geopolitics? Well, to answer that, we need to step back a little. But first, the learning outcomes for this session. The things I want you to understand by the end of this are the importance of feminist approaches to politics, the significance of Cynthia Enloe to IR and geopolitics, the subject matter of feminist approaches, how feminist approaches transcend gender, and finally, the methods taken by some scholars. Okay, back to Carmen Miranda.
The gentlemen, they want to make me say, see, but I don't tell them that, I tell them yes, sirree. And maybe that is why they come for dates to me, the lady in the Tutti-Frutti Hat.
Who was Carmen Miranda? Eduardo Galeano describes her thus: born in Portugal, daughter of a penurious barber who crossed the ocean, Carmen is the chief export of Brazil. Next comes coffee. Possibly true. A samba singer who through hard work made her way to Broadway and onto Hollywood, Miranda died in 1955 in Beverly Hills of a heart attack at the age of just 46. Yet as an indication of her ongoing cultural legacy, the modern-day samba singer Roberta Sarr played Carmen Miranda in the closing ceremony of the 2016 Rio Olympics. So, why is Carmen Miranda still so important to Brazil and to world politics over 60 years after she died? Well, we need to wind the clock back to a different phase in world politics. Okay, deep breath. Think for a moment about the Monroe Doctrine, the emergence of separate spheres of influence with the aim of keeping the European powers out of the affairs of the American continent. I don't want to get into the reasons for keeping Europeans out of the Americas, as these were many and varied, nor do I want to look at the success in doing so, as the US turned a blind eye to certain European powers when it served its interests. But one understanding of the Monroe Doctrine can be seen in the words of this chap, Major General Smedley Darlington Butler of the US Marine Corps, who was twice awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. General Butler gave a speech in 1933 in which he described his job. He says, "I spent 33 years and 4 months in active service as a member of our country's most agile military force, the Marine Corps. I served in all commissioned ranks, from a second lieutenant to major general, and during that time, I spent most of my time being a high-class muscleman for big business, for Wall Street and for the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer for capitalism. Thus, I helped make Mexico and especially Tampico safe for American oil interests in 1914. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Bank to collect revenues in. I helped pacify Nicaragua for the international banking house of Brown Brothers in 1909 to 1912. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for American sugar interests in 1916. I helped make Honduras right for American fruit companies in 1903. Quite why General Butler chose to describe his role in this way when back in the day he had what he himself describes as a swell racket is difficult to say. It might be because he was passed over for Commandant of the Corps. As Brady tells us, old Smedley didn't start bitching until he lost the top job. But what is clear is that times were changing. Smedley's speech coincides with FDR's ascent to the White House, and with this we see a shift from the Monroe Doctrine to the Good Neighbor policy. What might make Honduras right for American fruit companies in 1903 may not make it right in 1933. Something new was needed, and that new thing was personified as Carmen Miranda.
Some people say I dress too gay, but every day I feel so gay, and when I'm gay, I dress that way. Something wrong with that? No?
As Cynthia Enloe puts it, Carmen Miranda's movies helped make Latin America safe for American banana companies at a time when US imperialism was coming under wider regional criticism. An American major general is no longer seen as the best way of projecting US power. Instead, the time was ripe for a Portuguese-Brazilian samba singer and film star.
Americanos tell me that my heart is high, because I will not take it off to kiss a guy. But if I ever start to take it off, I Aye, aye. I do that once for Johnny Smith, and he is very happy with the lady in the Tutti-Frutti Hat.
Enloe's book, appropriately enough, is called Bananas, Beaches and Bases. It was originally published in 1989, an updated edition was released in 2000 and a new second edition was released in 2014. On the cover of all three, we see a picture of Carmen Miranda in the 1943 film The Gang's All Here. By looking at the importance of Carmen Miranda to world politics, Enloe is doing something that hadn't really been done before. She's associating an epochal change in the international system with the life of a woman. To be fair, other authors have looked at the lives of women in the international system, but for the most part they look at political leaders as women. For instance, Francis Fukuyama looks at Margaret Thatcher, Indira Gandhi and Golda Meir. But Enloe isn't looking at the life of a female political leader, she's looking at the life of a female samba singer. She does this to explain the role that bananas play in the politics first of the Americas and then of the world, engaging with the idea of the banana republic. Then she takes the next step. In a section of the book called Brothels and Bananas, she looks at the role of prostitution in banana plantations. Women's sexual availability just outside the gates, thus supposedly beyond the plantation manager's control, has been offered as one of the rewards for enduring the isolated, harsh conditions of plantation life. Prostitution became the norm on many plantations by design, not by chance. Looking at world politics in this way is revolutionary. Instead of looking at statesmen or armed forces, Enloe is looking at the centrality of prostitution to the distribution of a global commodity, the banana. But that's not all she does. Throughout the book, when looking at world politics, she asks a simple question: where are the women? To answer it, she looks at the places other authors have not, at the wives of diplomats, at textile workers, at maids, at prostitutes. Nobody before had devoted a section of a world politics book to domestic servants and the IMF. By changing the level of analysis for international affairs, Enloe was making a revolutionary change. Importantly, this change was inspirational for a new generation of scholars and opened up new areas of research that might not have been possible without Enloe's work.